Okay. I call this meeting of the Duncanville ISD Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that a quorum of Board of Trustees is present and that the meeting has been duly called and notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Good evening. Our mission at Duncanville ISD is to engage, equip, and empower all scholars to achieve their unique potential. We'll move to our opening ceremonies. Trustee Veracruz, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Yes, sir. Please join me for a word of prayer. Lord, we commit this evening's meeting to you, for we have been chosen for such a time as this. Thank you that your presence calms the troubled sea of life and speaks peace to our souls. Give us clear minds and peaceful hearts as we gather together. We pray for favor and protection over our students, administration, and campuses and leaders. Give those in authority over students wisdom and revelation in everything they do. Make them the vessel to speak life over our students. May we live in the light of your salvation. In his mighty name, amen.
Amen. Trustee Fahey, will you lead us in the pledges?
Sure. Please stand. Thank you. Please seat. Please be seated.
We'll now move to swearing in Duncanville ISD Police Officer. Chief Lambert, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. President, Superintendent, Ms. Fields. I have the honor to swear in a new police officer today. I have the honor, well, one of the benefits of having a new department is that you get to be a part of a lot of firsts. This is a first for us. We have sent a police cadet to the police academy for the very first time, and she passed. It was why she's here, and we are happy to do the swearing today and welcome her to the team. So I want to thank the board for their support. Since my tenure here with Duncanville ISD in the creation of our department in 2018, I've had nothing but overwhelming support from the Board of Trustees. Thank you very much for your support and your guidance through this. This couldn't be possible without a team. When we're looking outward for a police officer, looking for a police officer nowadays, it's difficult. Any position, teacher, whether it be teacher, principal, any staff member, it's hard for us as well. And Duncanville Police here behind me, they can vouch for that as well. It's very hard to find good quality candidates. So we looked inward. We looked at what we have homegrown. That's something that we hang our hats on as Duncanville ISDs, to hang our hats on homegrown and to grow our own. And it would have been impossible without the help of Kathleen Brown with Human Resources and Mr. Garrison as our CFO to make this happen, to help me make this happen. I went to their offices and saying, this is my idea, this is how I want to pursue this. And without even asking too many questions, they said, let's do it. So thank you very much to my team. Brother Campos. Pushing her to the academy is something I'm very proud to do. It's something I will hang my hat on when I retire, hopefully many years from now. But this is something I'll always remember, meeting her for the first time as a security guard for Duncanville ISD Police Department, and then watching her move through the ranks and show her compassion and show her love for students and for this district. It was just overwhelming. She inspires me daily with her passion for this. She gives me spark. She gives this department spark, and it's exactly what we need to keep pushing this department to the direction that we all see. I'll start with where Valerie came from, Officer Campos came from. Valerie's journey with Duncanville ISD began in 2004 at Hardin Intermediate as a fifth grade student. She attended Duncanville ISD schools through her junior year of the high school. After graduation, Valerie had no doubt that she needed to return to the place where so many educators had taken the time to sow little seeds in her heart. After a heartfelt conversation with Rosie Sandoval, who at the time served as a bilingual coordinator, Valerie applied to be a substitute teacher. During her orientation, Ms. Sandoval introduced Valerie to our very own Kathleen Brown. Mrs. Brown took the time to speak with Valerie about all the opportunities the district had to offer. At the end of the orientation, she was offered a position at Daniel Intermediate as a long-term bilingual science teacher. Since then, Valerie has served the district in the SPED department as an aide, at Duncanville High School as a security guard, and for the police department as a police and security dispatcher. Last week, Valerie accomplished her long-term goal of completing the police academy and becoming a licensed police officer by the state of Texas. Officer Campos states, "It is with great honor I take an oath and be held highly accountable to serve and protect the district that I love. I will forever be thankful for the unwavering support from her family, Mrs. Fields, her team, the school board, and her former teachers that are here today." So, raise your right hand. I, Valerie Campos,
I, Valerie Campos,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
I will
I will support and defend
support, defend
the Constitution of the United
the
States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Texas
and the Constitution of the State of Texas
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign
foreign
and domestic,
and domestic,
and that I will bear the true faith
and I will bear the true faith
and allegiance to the same.
and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties
the duties
of the office of police officer
of the office of police officer
upon which I am
upon which I am
about to enter.
about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for making this possible. Thank you for backing up an amazing chief. And I can't wait to serve the district that I love. Thank you.
I'd like to close telling thank you for Duncanville Police Department that's here today. It just shows that the relationship that we have with our city to come and represent for an officer that's not even their own. Thank you very much, Duncanville Police, for our support and the support the show daily. Thank you again.
We'll move on now to the superintendent's report. Mrs. Fields.
Well, good evening, President McNeely, trustees, and Duncanville ISD community. That's a hard act to follow for sure. January is School Board Appreciation Month, and so I'd like to begin by thanking each of you for all that you do for Duncanville ISD. Your service and support are evident in everything that you do and every decision that you make. We're so blessed to have board leadership focused on what's right for our students and our community. So we just want to say thank you, board, for all that you do, the service that you render for the students and staff of Duncanville Independent School District. Now, I'd like to express my gratitude to the board for selecting me to serve as the interim superintendent during this time of transition. Duncanville is really deeply rooted in a tradition of excellence. We work hard, I'm going to say that again, we work hard to exceed expectations in athletics, the arts, and academics, and I'm just honored to be able to stand in the gap while you search and select the next superintendent for our district, and I mean that, our district. Research is clear that the classroom teacher is the most important factor when it comes to student success, but the campus principal has the second greatest impact. But during this transition, I promise I will remain focused on recruiting, equipping, and retaining high-quality staff, improving academic performance, balancing the budget, and post-election, bond election actions. So I want to also thank the senior leadership team, the district leadership, and many of the members of the staff and the community who have reached out and expressed such wonderful congratulatory wishes towards me, and so I'm thankful. So we're clear about what we need to do, and we're going to do it. So thank you again, board, for this opportunity to lead Duncanville ISD as the interim superintendent in the city of champions. My next item that I would like to share is, of course, we've talked about leadership and how important it is to our district. And so with that, we have a wonderful familiar face on the screen this evening, Ms. Cassandra Phillips. As state law requires, the chief appraiser is to conduct an election of representatives to the board for the Dallas Central Appraisal District Board. The process, of course, is outlined in the tax code, and we're just pleased to announce that Trustee Phillips has been elected to represent Dallas County Suburban School District and will serve in the 5th position on the board. I want to share how important and significant this is because she will represent Dallas College, Sunnyvale, Richardson, Highland Park, Grand Prairie, Capel, Cedar Hill, Carrollton Farmers Branch, Duncanville, and 7 other school districts in Dallas County. Congratulations, Trustee Phillips. We appreciate you and your leadership throughout Duncanville. The next item I have is really highlighting one of our really important departments, nutrition services. Congratulations to nutrition services, the services team, for being awarded the Best of the Bunch recognition for their efforts in the 2023 Texas Department of Agriculture's Farm Fresh Challenge. As part of the challenge, the Duncanville ISD Nutrition Services team geared activities toward teaching students about healthy eating while bringing attention to our locally sourced produce. Our district will be formally recognized at the Texas Department of Agriculture's conference in May. We want to give a special thanks to all of our child nutrition workers across the district. Without them doing their part, this honor would not be possible. And particularly, I want to give a special congratulations and thank her for her leadership to Ms. Tracy Markham. So thank you, Nutrition Services, for being the best of the bunch. I want to also update the board on a couple of initiatives that are going forward. The next one, of course, is the teacher incentive allotment. And our district right now is in the process of applying for the state teacher incentive allotment program grant. The purpose of this program is, of course, to support districts in retaining high-quality teachers in the classroom by giving them an opportunity to earn distinctions. And you see on the screen there, the application is due on April the 15th, and we're just beginning our initial planning. With each designation earned, a teacher is paid a monetary incentive which increases their annual salary. So we're in the beginning stages of our planning, as I shared, for the grant proposal, and we just conducted recently our initial teacher survey, and 54% of our respondents support us pursuing this opportunity. Teacher engagement is also a requirement of the grant, and so we'll be using a committee primarily made of teachers to support this work, and we'll be providing communication to all the teachers throughout the planning process. As I said, the application is due on the 15th, and we'll keep the board obviously informed along the way. And then finally, we'll be asking you to approve our funding plan before we submit the application. Next slide. Want to give just a very brief update on our partnership with Holsworth. And so, as you all are familiar, Duncanville ISD is in a multi-year investment to grow stronger leaders within our district. And in partnership with the Holsworth Center, our top priority is to build a pipeline of leaders ready for the next level. At the December session, the Holsworth traveling team worked on vacancy planning and had discussions about preparing job-embedded experiences for high-potential leaders. And of course, our goal is to have at least 2 ready leaders for every vacancy. This requires us to adjust how we're developing our pipeline of leaders. In December, the traveling team also learned about leadership and organizational culture from Craig Boyan, and he is the president of HEB. Last week, the traveling team learned how to create change and develop personal leadership objectives. And the teams mapped out some critical work that will need to be accomplished throughout the Holsworth partnership to achieve the priority outcomes for Duncanville ISD. And so they've learned many strategies that's going to help us move along with this process. And we want to thank our traveling team who has to spend time away from the district duties in order to be a part of this. And so that's our update on Holsworth. We also have some great news. We want to congratulate, we have 8 students, and their names are there on the slide there, and we congratulate them. These 8 students will perform with the Texas All-State Ensembles in San Antonio on Saturday, February 10th, 2024, at the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center as part of the 2024 Texas Music Educators Association Clinic or Convention. These young people are members of the All-State Music group, and they were selected out of, there were only 1,875 students selected through the process. Began with over 70,000 students from across the state vying for this honor to perform in one of 18 ensembles. These musicians were chosen for their prestigious honor through a competitive process held across the state at the district level, the regional level, and the area level. Mr. Till, the director of bands, and Ms. Smith, director of choirs, are members of the Texas Music Educators Association, and we thank them for their leadership. The Texas Music Educators Association sponsors the Texas All-State Competition, and you see the names there for choir. And one noteworthy mention under choir is that Mr. Jeffrey Berry, this is his 4th time to perform as a member of TMEA All-State Organization. Jeffrey is Duncanville ISD's first 4-year All-State musician. So we congratulate Mr. Berry and all of the other outstanding students who are a part of this. Let's give them a round of applause. And lastly, we are so excited to announce that the city of Duncanville is hosting a parade and a block party to honor our state champions. 2023 was another standout year in Duncanville ISD. Not only were we back-to-back state champions in football, but we also brought home our very first girls track and field state championship. Our boys basketball team earned the coveted title of national champions, And as I just shared, we have fine arts students who earned all state honors. The Parade of Champions and Block Party event is this Thursday, the 25th. And the block party begins at 6 p.m. at the main parking lot at Duncanville High School. The parade starts at 6:30, and the parade participants will be staged at Sandra Meadows Arena, and they will head around the building, the high school building, starting on Kathy Self Morgan Way, all the way as they'll march around until we get to the main parking lot. And around 7 o'clock p.m., we'll have the ceremonies at the front steps of Duncanville High School. It's going to be a great evening. This is your special invitation to come and join us on Thursday evening. The community is also invited. Mr. President and Board. The community is, of course, invited to join us, and that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
And I would like to say that we are really thrilled that Ms. Fields took our offer to lead our district through this search, and we're really glad to have her. We want her to know that the board supports her 120%, that we want, because you have a great staff, to keep this district moving forward, and we think that she's the one that can do it, and we are glad to have her.
Thank you, Mr. McNeely. Thank you, Board.
Now, we'll move on to recognitions. Mrs. Wallace.
Good evening, President McNeely, Board of Trustees, and Interim Superintendent Mrs. Fields. On the screen, you see we have donations here. The Duncanville ISD community continuously supports the efforts of our schools and our students, and we are grateful to them. This month, I am reporting that we've received over $11,000 in check donations and over $10,000 in goods. Next slide, please. So that's slide 1 and slide 2. And at this time, I will continue forward with our board appreciation, if that's okay with President McNeely. So January is Board Appreciation Month, as Interim Superintendent Mrs. Fields mentioned. And words cannot fully express the gratitude we have for the dedication and commitment to the students, staff, and community of Duncanville ISD. The theme this year is locally elected, community connected, and it highlights the connection between school trustees and their communities. Most of you guys may not know, that school board members are the largest group of locally elected officials in the state. Yes. And so we hope that tonight you guys had a chance to enjoy meeting staff and community members at the reception, the meet and greet, and it was just a way for us to express our gratitude to you guys. So to our school community, thank you all so much for your presence this evening and supporting this effort to show our board how much we truly appreciate them. And at this time, I would like to introduce the Duncanville High School Utopian Brass Ensemble. They will perform a selection for our enjoyment, and I believe one of the students is a member of, he is one of our All-Staters that was just recognized earlier. Is that correct, Mr. Teal, Mr. Tuesday? All right, yes. Take it away. Thank you very much. And thank you to Mr. Till and to Mr. Doucet for always being so willing to answer the call and respond and have wonderful student performances for us. You guys know that our board members are vital, and their dedication, vision, and commitment shape the future of our schools and our students. At this time, I'd like to get the assistance of our student performers to help us distribute gifts to our board members. So board members, when you get to closed session, there is a beautiful floral arrangement for you there as well. And our police department, they have a gift for you in closed session. The gift that you are receiving, it is personalized. So they're trying to make sure they give it to the right person. You're receiving a personalized gift that captures your dedicated leadership in action in our community. And I believe there are a few directions in there, so once you get it and you open it up, let us know if you need some additional directions with it. But we hope that you enjoy it. We had a lot of fun putting it together, and we want to just thank you all for everything that you do. Thank you very much. This concludes our report.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Okay, under board policy, BED local, and for the effective meeting management and scheduling reasons, the board will now consider item 9D, discuss superintendent search with consultants to receive information about the search process. No speakers. There are no members of the public who signed up to make public comments on agenda item 9D or the superintendent search. We will now move on to the discussion item 9D and ask Dr. Moses to address the board. We will hear public comment on other agenda items later in the meeting on item 6 of the agenda. Thank you. Dr. Moses.
Mr. President, members of the board, good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to visit with you this evening, and thank you for kind of repositioning us. First, let me add my thanks for your service at Board Appreciation Month, and I would say that for you and for all school board members in Texas. That service, I know how much you're paid, as my son was a school board member in the Round Rock Independent School District, and he seemed to be confused about that for a long time, but thank you very much. Also, I would say congratulations to Mrs. Fields, and thank you for your work. And I had a nice visit with her this evening as I arrived, since she's the one that let me in the door, and I appreciated it very much, and look forward to her service. David Thompson and Horton, and I would like to thank the board again for the opportunity to work with you and to serve you in this most important undertaking of a superintendent search. We're very flattered and thankful to have been asked to do that, and we want to make sure that we are committed to making sure that goes very, very well. Are we passing out the information? Is it already kind of made it around? With regard to the search process, I think you may recall that when we were here previously, we looked at a timeline, and it says up the top, suggested timeline, because as we told you, this is your search. It's not our search, it's your search, and we want it to work. But we also pointed out to you that to get things done in a timely fashion, perhaps even to finish the search and name a new superintendent, sometime in late April before May school board elections, that there needed to be a process in place. And this timeline kind of gives us a little bit of discipline, if you will. It doesn't mean we can't change it. It doesn't mean that you can't say, oh, time out, we're not quite ready for this step yet, and certainly we respect that. But we do need something to kind of guide us and to guide our actions. So with that in mind, brought back that timeline for you to take a look at again. And really the big dates on there, particularly for David Thompson and myself, are February the 22nd, and I'll speak to that community engagement piece in just a minute. That's not a date you are required to do anything other than if you would like a report that evening of what we hear from members of your community that you nominate and you help select, then we make ourselves available that evening, late that afternoon, early evening, to give you some feedback on what we've heard. I doubt there will be many big surprises, but occasionally we learn something that is important for the board to know in the conducting of the search. March the 6th is a big day on this particular calendar because that is the date that we would return and meet with you, and that would be a rather long meeting. And we would be looking at resumes and portfolios of candidates. And that we would dedicate quite a bit of time. We usually suggest that 3 hours at least be dedicated to that meeting and we start as early as you want to start. If you say start at 6, we start at 6. You say start at 5, we start at 5. Whatever time we do not recommend that you do any of these activities in conjunction with a regular board meeting. This meeting, particularly this meeting on March 6th, needs to probably be dedicated to the search and to the business of the superintendent search. Your first round of interviews, again, this is all in order to complete the process, as you can see by the last date on the calendar. But we're suggesting, again, that the week after spring break, March 18th, be the week for your first round of interviews. And I may have said this, and if I did, I apologize for repeating myself, but we suggest that you do these like in consecutive days, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If you do say, well, let's do one on Monday, let's skip Tuesday, do a couple on Wednesday, do one on Thursday, skip Friday, and do the last one on Saturday, you find yourself trying to remember what the one said on Monday. It is best to conduct these, and usually, again, some boards like to do it over a 2-day period, some 3-day period. Most of the boards we've worked with in the last several years have chosen 3 days. The calendar might look like start at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, 5 to 7, do a 2-hour interview. And the first round of interviews is usually 2 hours. And if we didn't mention this, I will say we will help prepare the board for the interview process. That will be yours to conduct, but we will have a battery of questions that you can use or throw away, but we'll help give you some at least a place to start from. The interviews are usually about 2 hours. So if you said 5 to 7, break from 7 to 7:30, and then do 7:30 to 9:30. And if you do that 3 days in a row, you're going to have by the third day you'll have had good visits and a good examination of the candidates. But I would suggest, Mr. President, that sometime, doesn't have to be tonight, but that you and the board get calendars and that you pick out the days during that week that you want. And if you say, well, we need to do it another week, we respect that. My main point is be intentional and go get 3 dates in a row. If you say, well, we can't do that, we just all got commitments. Well, some boards, and we haven't had anybody do this in several years, have done a couple on Friday night and done 4 on a Saturday. That's pretty arduous to do it that way. But if you felt like that's the only way we can get it done, we respect that and we'd work with you to do that. But I would suggest that you be thinking about that week and days that we could get that done. We then say, after the first round, we'd like for you to tell us who 2 people are that you'd like to have come back. And I've had people say, well, we don't need to bring 2 back. We just need to bring 1 back. What if you can't come to a contractual arrangement? What if somebody's spouse decides, I don't think we want to make a move right now? We'll always say we want to always bring 2 people back, and we don't eliminate anyone until the board has completed the search and has told us we have made a decision on our lone finalist. Then and only then will we eliminate anyone. We don't want to take people out of the pool until we know the board has had a chance to consider everyone and then make an informed decision. And then as you see, if that goes well, then we have a week set aside there, and I think we mentioned for finalized background checks. We will have already done reference checks, but we'll have to have a criminal background check, financial background check that we do, and we do a social media check as well. And I think I explained to you why we think that's important, just to make sure that everything is as it should be. And that, of course, allows you the ability then to name a loan finalist as early as April the 8th and enter into a contract as early as April 29th. So that's again, if you said, Mike, we need to move that, or something's wrong there, then, we'll make it work. But from the standpoint of starting out, we think that's a pretty good place to start. You'll note that February 22nd is kind of an important day if you do want the community engagement that we discussed. And if you do, then what we recommend is you take this list that we've passed out, and if each one of you would nominate one individual from each of those categories, meaning that each one of you will have 9 nominees. Each one would have a parent, a non-parent taxpayer, a business person or chamber member, a representative of a faith-based institution, a teacher, administrator, principal, student, an auxiliary staff member, someone from maintenance, transportation, food service, et cetera, and an elected official or opinion leader. If each one of you will get someone from each of those categories, then we have 63 people nominated. I've already had a nice meeting with the board secretary, and we've already talked a little bit about once that's done, and we'd like to get that done perhaps in the next week so that letters could go out to people by February the 1st. This is February 22nd, is what we're talking about, having a meeting on February 22nd. The earlier that Jody gets the notes out, the better attendance we will have. Most of the people you will want to nominate, they'll see the letter and say, oh, this is about the superintendent search, and I'm being invited to come to a focus group meeting and talk about what we need in a new superintendent. And David and I have some questions we ask. Every person gets to talk. Usually every person gets to talk at least 4 times during these meetings. We don't ask people to come and then sit and listen to us. We're asking them questions, but we get feedback from them. And we also asked Jody to do it in such a way, and asked the board president to look over this, that geographically the district is represented, that we have a diverse pool of people, but also I asked, don't put all the teachers in one group. Don't put all the parents in one group. Don't put all the business people in one group. Let's get a good mix. We have a much richer conversation about the district, the aspirations, the dreams for our children, for the community, when we have to hear each other's opinions. If we get in there with people that do the same thing we do, we're all going to hear the same opinions. So Jody and I have had that discussion. I think the president needs to probably look over that list, see if there are any duplicates. If there's any duplicates, then you might need to renominate someone. But that gives us a real good day of conversation, what we call a guided conversation with people in your community about strengths, challenges, personal characteristics, professional characteristics that will be desired in the next superintendent of schools. The next day, we'll ask Connie to put up on the district's website a little survey that has those same questions we asked the members of the focus groups. Why you do that? Well, say somebody goes home and says, boy, I heard about that, and I wish I could have participated in that. I would have liked to have been able to express my opinion. We'd love to hear from you. If you go to our district website, the same inquiries that were made with the focus groups will be on the website, and we ask her to leave those up for 1 week. And you don't need to leave them up much longer than that, because they just kind of go on and on and on. But if we leave it up a week, and then we compile that, the board can see that information. Is David and I will provide you a verbal report of what we heard the day of February 22nd. We'll also provide you a written report within about a week. So you'll see, here's what people had to say. We do not do anything by attribution. No names. It's the reason we don't really ask you to participate on that day. Just let people talk freely and honestly, and they will. And it'll be a good conversation. But that will, I think, give you some feedback and some information from the community about their thoughts on this process, on this search, and things that need to be considered by the board as you move forward in looking at people who might possibly be your next superintendent of schools. Jody has letters of invitation. I've already given her a boilerplate letter, so Mr. President, I think you would be the logical person to sign the letter inviting people to participate. Again, I'd recommend that within the next week that you get Jody your names of each category, your names of your person, their email, possibly their address, and their phone number. Your next question may be, is it okay if I tell them I'm nominating them? Absolutely. If you'd like to tell them, hey, I've nominated you to be a participant in our focus groups as we undertake this superintendent search. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but the main thing Jody needs is the best contact and as much contact information as you can give them so she can compile the list, look it over, President can look it over, make sure we don't have any duplicates, that the community is represented, and then the letters can go out. Again, we're going to kind of mix it up and get a good groups to talk to. Am I making any sense at all? Does this seem to, Mr. President, I'd ask if the board then, if there are any thoughts or questions on that. I think if your timeline is, if you think the timeline can work, your challenge is to get those dates identified for interviews. Let me say this about the second round. I didn't say this, I apologize. The second round, when you bring two people back, you do that usually on one night, one person back with spouse, say on Tuesday night, and have a dinner for about an hour and 15 minutes, excuse the spouse, then spend another couple of hours with the candidate. This is in the second round of interviews. And then say on Wednesday night or Thursday night, do the same thing with your second person. So you're not there, but you're getting a real good close look again at a candidate for the second time with spouse. And that by that time, you will have been in interviewing over 20 hours. So you will have a pretty good time investment made in terms of the people that you want to think about to possibly be your next superintendent. But that's kind of, I think, if the timeline works for you, we'll say that's our guide. It's not our master. It's kind of our tool, and we'll use it unless you tell us that we need to do something else. When we come back and visit with you on the 22nd of February, we'll have this conversation again, see if we're still on track. We come back on the 6th of March, we'll have this conversation again, make sure we're on track, that everybody's ready, feels good about it. If for any reason you don't, then we'll adjust. Let me stop there and see if there's any questions. I hope that's helpful. Yes, ma'am.
So ideally, there'll be 63 different people divided into 3 groups. Now, who chooses those groups? Would that be Phil or
He
Jody
needs to
or
sign.
you?
Yeah. Phil needs to sign off on them. I won't know the people.
Okay.
What I need, the reason I met with Jody earlier today, and I asked her, y'all will know these people, the president will know the people, Jody may know some of them, but just to look at them and make sure that we've just kind of got a good mix. If 21 people, well, first of all, will we get 100% participation? We'll get 90%. Probably 90%, I bet. Somebody that day will have something come up. But we'll run probably, the groups will probably run somewhere between 18 to 22 people. I mentioned to Jody that if somebody calls her up and says, I'd like to participate in this, but I can't come at 10:30, put them in the 8:30 group, put them in the 1:30 group. We're not trying to keep people out. We're trying to let people participate. Now, I said to her, if you have to do that more than 2 or 3 times, I'd rather not have groups of 25 or 30, because then people don't get to talk. What happens then you got so many people in there. I want everybody to get to talk. I want to hear from people that come and participate. But I mentioned to her, if 2 or 3 people call and say, I can't make that work, but I'd like to participate, we're not going to fuss if there's 2 or 3 extra people in one group and 2 or 3 less in another group. That's not going to make a big difference one way or the other. Does that make some sense?
It does, thank you. I do have one more question.
Yes.
With the focus groups, should we be in attendance or should board members stay away?
We've never had board members participate, never to this day, and we don't ask you to. In fact,
Okay.
we just like people to just come and talk with us. There's no secrets, and I don't think anybody's going to come and probably have any, as I said, any profound surprises that you're going to hear. If there's problems in this district, you've probably heard whatever the issues are. But somebody, we ask you to nominate students. It's amazing what the students will tell us. And they're not, and usually you're going to nominate great kids. And they're going to come and make some observations, and some of the adults look around and say, wow, I didn't think about that. But no, I don't think your presence is needed or required, and I think it's best just to come meet with us that afternoon and let us tell you what we've heard and give you again, we don't do it for attribution. We just tell you these, and if there are major themes that people had to say over and over and over that they were concerned about or watching, we'll tell you what those themes are. But this is not anything that I think requires your attendance until that evening and when we kind of do a debrief.
And in the evening, that meeting would be posted, correct?
Oh, yeah, we
Okay,
post
all
it,
right.
yeah.
Thank
It would-
you.
Absolutely, it's a public meeting. Anytime we meet with y'all in public, post it, and if Jody needs some help with the language, then David or the attorneys will get whatever language we need to get for that. Y'all are a really nice group. I hope that makes some sense, what but at any time, Mr. President, if we need to talk and we need to visit about any of this, then happy to do it. I'll work, Jody's kind of knows, I think, what we need to do, and we'll work to be ready to be back here February the 22nd. But and I will let you know also one other thing. We're already getting inquiries. We've already sent out letters of invitation. The advertisements are up on TexasISD.com and on the Texas Association of School Administrators Career Center. And in fact, I drove over here this afternoon, had a very nice conversation with a sitting superintendent that's very interested. So the marketplace is well aware of the Duncanville Superintendency and that it's open. And so I think we'll have some very interesting candidates for you to look at. Anything else?
Any other thing?
Thank you all very much, and congratulations to all of you for your service again. Appreciate it very much.
Appreciate it. Now, we'll move into closed session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Oh, one other thing. Go ahead, Dr. Allen.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just want to recognize, I have a special guest here tonight, Patrice Broom. Patrice, where are you? This is my cousin. She flew all the way from Nebraska to be here this weekend with me for my birthday, so I just want to acknowledge her.
Okay, we're back from closed session. There's no communication on the agenda from the citizens. We will now move on to consider the approval of consent agenda items, and all of these may be acted upon at the same time by the Board of Trustees. Does anybody have any questions on the consent agenda items?
No, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items as listed.
Motion been made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor? Raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, great. Now we will move on to the action agenda. Am I doing it right? 8, where is it? Okay. Okay, action agenda, item 8A. Mr. Garrison.
Good evening, President McNeely, Board of Trustees, Ms. Fields. The item before you is the annual call for election. It's an annual item to call for the board election. The date is May 4th for the election for seats or places 6 and 7, standard routine item. The ordinance have been updated with the voting locations for early precinct as well as the dates and times.
Any questions? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the May 4th board election date.
Second?
Motion's been made and second. All in favor? 6-0. Motion carries. Mr. Garrison,
Do you need a motion to table?
oh, yeah. We're going to have a motion to table 8B.
Yes, the representatives from Linebarger suggested to not take action on that tonight, so I move that we table the item.
I second.
Motion been made, and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Okay. 8C. Ms. Zamora, please.
Good evening. The Texas Administrative Codes, Chapter 61, includes a list of school safety standards for all instructional facilities. And the way they define instructional facility is a building predominantly used for teaching curriculum. One of the things that they required is to have secure enclosed areas with at least 6 feet high fence with anti-scaling design or 8-foot fencing. And if there's gates, to make sure that they're locked gates with egress emergency hardware, so that way if anybody on the outside cannot come inside. But if they're in, if students need to leave the secured area, they can easily. So they gave, TA provided, what you see is the box on the left, they provided examples of what 6-foot fencing with anti-scaling design would look like. So you'll see items, chain link fence with the spikes at the top. They've got some with mesh, some with slats in between. So that is one of the requirements to meet, or you can have an 8-foot fencing without anti-scaling design. So as a district, we decided not to go with those samples on the left because the mesh can come apart, the slats can deteriorate, and because some of our campuses already had 4-foot fencing, it was just better just to go ahead and upgrade all of our fencing to 8 feet without anti-scaling design.
Which one?
So we're actually going with the right, we're going is just regular chain link fence without any anti-scaling design. So no slats, no mesh, just 8 foot. Yes. So you may have noticed in the executive summary, the RFSCP, the request for sealed competitive proposal was actually released a few months ago. It took a couple of months to bring it to you, and I want to kind of discuss the delay. So in August 2023, the district was awarded a safety grant. We released the RFSCP on August 25th, 2023, to purchase fencing items with this grant. So the process included a mandatory pre-bid meeting held on September 5th, 2023, where each vendor was provided the specs and details for each location and received a guided tour by Joe Paterka, our Director of Maintenance, to some of the locations. As you can see on the summary spec sheet, starting on page 63, vendors were provided locations, description of needed items, and linear foot per area. The vendors bid the price per job and the price per campus using steel materials compatible with existing materials used in the district. You may have noticed that Byrd Middle School was not included for fencing. And so what happens is if a campus does not have a secure area, what the requirement, the state requires that those areas, not just for Byrd, but any campus, any door that is not within a secured area and that's not fenced by 8 feet, their window doors and the windows adjacent to the doors must have entry-resistant film on them. That is something we're going to bring to you as a bid later on, at a later date. And with Bird being parking on all three sides, it wasn't feasible to really do fencing. So that campus will get window film on those windows and doors. The completed responses were received by September 20th, 2 p.m. We actually received 2 proposals. However, both exceeded the grant funds awarded in August. So the decision was made to delay to bring the RFSCP until new funding was secured. So in November, 2 things happened. One, the bond passed. The fencing was originally part of that bond package. However, also in November, TA released a new safety grant with enough funds to cover the entire cost of the fencing. So the bond funds that originally allocated for fencing can now go towards other safety items that are needed. We did reach out to both vendors who bid originally and confirmed their interest in obtaining any updated proposals. So now with enough funding, we're now ready for the board to take action. So I mentioned the 2 grants that we were awarded. The total grants are enough to fund the proposed fencing, in addition to any other safety items. Chief Lambert, Mr. Paterka, their respective teams and I were working together collaboratively to address the needed safety items. The decision was made to proceed and award both vendors who responded with this RFSCP to have the option of utilizing both and have fencing projects done sooner. This award will be effective upon board approval through June 30th, 2024, with a possible renewal for additional 1-year periods. Therefore, tonight we're recommending the board approve the award for RFSCP 2324-003 for fencing for the vendors indicated on the tab. Please let me know if there's any questions Mr. Paterka and I can answer for you.
When did the commissioner decide that every school needed a fence?
It was proposed by maybe 2 years ago.
Really?
And then it went and actually was approved.
And every school in the state of Texas, whether you have a fence or not, needs to do a 6 or 8 foot fence.
Yes.
Wow.
The other option would be you'd have to have the window doors or the windows adjacent to the doors with entry-resistant film.
That's interesting. And then, what was the amount of the grant?
Let me go back to that. So the 2 total grants, they both totaled $3.4 million.
And the total cost of the fence?
The highest, so there's 2 bids. The highest vendor bid at $1.5 million.
1.5?
Yes.
Well, let's just
So-
get double, let's just get a 16-foot fence. That'll keep the teachers from escaping because the state.
But, yeah, that could be part of our recruitment, retention.
Wow.
Thank you very much. I'm excited, to see that we're moving forward with the fencing. So about how long will it take to install it?
I would have to get back to you on that information, the timeline. So what we're going to do, or if approved, we're going to divide up the campuses. Because it is exterior, they can work. They don't have to wait until the summer. And so the total timeline, I'll have to get that information to you.
Okay, and then, so the highest cost we got was 1.5, and we've been awarded like almost 3.5 million. Is there any opportunity to reallocate those bond funds the grant funds to other security-related projects?
Well, there are other things that need to be done. So I mentioned the entry-resistant film. that'll probably take the other large chunk of what's remaining of the grant funds.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's other requirements we have to do. The fencing is just one of several. The film would be another one that will go for bid, and it could take, may possibly be up to $1 million, so that might take the rest of it.
Okay, so we'll be releasing a bid for that?
Yes, we will. Mhm.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I would just like to commend your team for the grant writing, right? So someone wrote the grant, so I want to commend the team for doing this, taking the extra time and putting this out there and for us to receive this. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Between the two companies, is there like almost $500,000 between their bids? Is one like the 1.5 and the other one just a little over $1 million?
Let me,
And I've tried to compare what they're both offering, like, are they both 20 gauge? And I have another question about
Yes.
the
Have
safety and
Mr. Pater come
security
up.
type committee. I mean, was the police department in on this decision? And who all was involved in helping set these plans for us to choose? I know it came from the state, but did the police have any input about the anti-scaling and all that?
Yes, like I was mentioned, Chief Lambert and I, our teams, we work together to address safety issues. You know, they're listed as safety, but they're also maintenance issues, and so we do work together on this. You want to talk about the price difference?
So there is a difference in some of the gauge material that each vendor bid out. Both of them are acceptable to us. Both of them will last a long time. One is certainly better than the other, and it's reflected in their cost. I don't know at this point if we can still negotiate with them to try to get them to change, or if that's the vendor that they're using for their proposal, and that's the only one they've got access to, but that's how they bid it.
Is a 20-year warranty pretty much standard?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
What happens, I mean, if we have a 4-foot fence, Phil, calm down. If we have a 4-foot fence or a 6-foot fence, and they're pretty new, they're pretty good, what do we do with those? Does anyone, I just think of all that waste.
So
be used.
with some of our campuses, if it has 6-foot fencing, the vendor will come in, they'll increase the post and they'll add to it. The 4-foot will just be removed completely.
The 4-foot will have to go away and be completely changed out. If we have 6-foot posts, they can put an extension in to get us to 8, and then it's all new fabric. And then the old fabric, I'm assuming we're gonna probably put all that together and I'll put it in an auction and try to get it sold off.
Good, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Come on, Carly, you got one more.
I make a motion that we approve the vendors on the RFSCP 23-24.003 fencing tab.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any more questions? All in favor? Carries 6-0. Now, you're still up. We're gonna buy
Yep,
some buses,
I'm
I hope. If we can find somebody to drive them, we'll be all
Oh,
right.
exactly, yes. I am pleased to come before you with the opportunity to purchase new school buses. The district has 69 buses in its fleet. Of those, 38 are well beyond their lifespan, 16 years or older. This is why the 2023 Bond Committee recommended purchasing buses. to a tune of about $7 million. In November, the voters, of course, approved it. And then in December, y'all did the bond reimbursement resolution, which is because of these actions, I'm here to propose that we purchase 15 new school buses. The proposed bus you see there, it's a model year 2025, 13 rows, 7 rows with 3-point seats, and 6 rows with integrated safety seats like the one that's shown on the slide. The integrated safety seats are if in the future we decide to transport pre-K students, our buses will be ready to do so. The new buses will have numerous increased safety features, such as rounded windshields for increased visibility, no child left behind monitoring system, and crash mitigation. The buses we're proposing are stock buses. So what that means is they're buses that have already been ordered by the vendor. Very similar if you were to go to a car dealership and you buy a vehicle that the dealer ordered in advance, same thing for us. These are buses that have already been ordered by the vendor. Once they arrive, they'll be customized for Duncanville ISD after they arrive, and that kind of includes they'll be adding the GPS, they'll do video systems, two-way radios, air conditioning. And the reason why we're going this route to do stock is to have them available for the start of the 2024-2025 school year. Had we ordered custom, it would have taken 10 to 18 months for them to arrive. The stock buses we're proposing will be here by this summer. Each bus is a little over $161,000. For a total of 15 buses is $2,417,280. Now, the bond did approve for about 40. We do plan to scatter those. So we want to have 15 for the start of the 24-25 school year, then add 10 more after each year. The last year, 27-28, we would have potentially 5. I say potentially, it all depends on how much the cost of buses will be moving forward. But we want to utilize every penny of that $7 million that was allocated. Therefore, tonight we're recommending the board approve the purchase of the 15 school buses from Longhorn Bus Sales, LLC, for $2,417,280 as part of the approved bond allocations. Now, the district has successfully used this vendor in the past. Please let me know if there's any questions. Mr. Hamrick, Director of Transportation, I can answer for you.
I just wanted to make a motion.
Make it.
President McNeely, I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of 15 school buses from Longhorn Bus Sales LLC for $2,417,280.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
We're very excited to see, that we're moving forward so quickly with new school buses, because, we hear a lot. So how many school buses are in dire need of replacement right now? Is that 15?
No, it's 40. The only reason why we're not doing all 40 is you buy them all in the same year, you have to replace them all in the same year. So that's why we're scattering them. We're scattering them across 4 years.
Okay. I guess my question, okay.
Now, that's not to say that all 40 are not working. We do have, they are running, there's some that need more attention.
Yes,
So,
some of them are more reliable than others.
yes.
Okay, but 15 is the number that you feel comfortable with moving forward with at this time?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mhm. Thank you.
Any other questions? Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Morrow. Okay, we'll move on to the corrective action plan. Mrs. Brown.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President McNeely, Board of Trustees, and Interim Superintendent Ms. Fields. I'm here to present the TEA Corrective Action Plan. So why do we need a corrective action plan? The corrective action plan addresses the leaver data submitted by PEEMS to TEA during the COVID-19 pandemic. An annual leaver is a 7th through 12th grade student who was reported in PEEMS as having left Texas public schools. For example, dropouts, students who are homeschooled, graduates, and students who moved out of the state or the country are all considered to be leavers. Students without a code are considered to be underreported. Underreported students are excluded from the dropout calculations, which are a part of the district's accountability. Duncanville ISD had underreported students for previous school years during the COVID-19 pandemic, which is why a corrective action plan is required. So how was data reported? The district was trained that students without a leaver code would automatically be classified as dropouts by the Texas Education Agency. This was inaccurate. This practice was discontinued since TEA does not automatically code the students. Our PEEMS department now codes students without any leaver documentation as presumed dropouts. The corrective action plan has several components that require board approval, including specific documentation requirements and required training for relevant staff. Training has already been developed in partnership with Region 10 and has been scheduled on February 7th to train all of the 6th through 12th grade campus principals in addition to the campus registrars on the leaver documentation process. New components to the process have been added in alignment with requirements from the Texas Education Agency and with recommendations from Region 10. We will continue to monitor our processes to ensure ongoing compliance. It's important to note that our current dropout prevention measures are successful. The concerns with leaver data are simply coding issues that took place during COVID, and we'll continue our practices of addressing dropouts through identification, home visits, counseling, and providing alternative options such as Pace High School. Are there any questions?
I guess since it was during COVID, it doesn't affect like our, the state assessment, because you're saying it was during the 2 COVID years?
It was during the leaver data is during the COVID, but TA made no mention of anything other than the data being accurate or inaccurate.
On the
Brown?
slide, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
So sorry. On the slide, you had home visits.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about what does that look like?
So every year, we get the list of students who did not re-enroll for 7th through 12th grade campuses at the previous year. And so the first step, registrars, they call home, email families, try to find families. If we can't get in touch with the parents, then the student services and campus support team, we pull the support counselors, the restorative team, the truancy specialists, even some of the directors, and we all divide and conquer and go knock on doors to try to find the students and where they are, or if they're enrolled at another campus, or have they moved. And so we do that early in the fall, right after school begins in September.
Ms. Brown, about how many students were underreported?
So they have different cohort groups for underreported students. I have the information. So for the 22-23 school year, leaver data is a year behind. So let me say that. It doesn't mean the students, it's a year lag with leaver data. So for the 22-23 school year, there were 83 students, but during that 21-22 school year, which was addressing the students prior during the COVID year, there were presumed 185 students and then 55. TEA does find some of those, but they were left without a code. So if they're enrolled in another district, in a public school, the state will automatically say, okay, these were underreported, but we found them in another ISD with their unique state ID, if we could not find them. And so with that assumption, because TEA finds students that are enrolled in another state another school district, the assumption was that those that were left blank would just be presumed as dropouts, and that was the inaccurate part. So I want to explain, all underreported students are not dropouts.
Okay.
But that is the number that was underreported. But those are found throughout the year as school districts submit their data of enrollment, and then it calibrates. The state calibrates that information for us.
Okay.
And so what they want us to do is that if they're underreported, just to pretty much code them as a dropout.
Okay.
And
Thank
then
you.
they settle up after.
All right,
the
thank you
states-
for that clarification.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
List for PACE.
I am not sure about PACE and the waiting list, or, I know PACE, they continuously evaluate applications, enrollment as students, for students that meet the criteria. I think it's an ongoing process, but I don't want to misspeak. Yeah, it's an
Are
ongoing
we taking
process with
care
enrollment.
of the students who need us at
Yeah.
PACE? Okay.
Yeah,
I
it's-
mean, at one time there was.
With a waiting list, yeah. To my knowledge, yeah, it's an ongoing process with enrollment, just as students that meet the criteria will
Good.
be a good fit, they enroll them, as needed throughout the year.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just to give some context, PACE can hold 120 students. We are currently at 72. And that is not because we're not actively looking for students. It is because students are finished. We just had a great graduating class at PACE. So students are constantly finishing, not to say that they won't graduate right then and there, but there's a constant flow of referrals to PACE, replenishing PACE with students who, want to be a part of that. So very much an open door, not so much a waiting list at this moment.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
President McNeely, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the corrective action plan agreement as presented by the Texas Education Agency.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded.
Second.
Oh.
Second.
Any more questions or comments? All in favor? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Now we'll move on to information. Let's see who that is. Bond report.
Well, good evening, President McNeely, trustees, and Mrs. Fields. I am pleased to share with you this evening an update on our bond progress, along with our timeline and the projects associated with the reimbursement resolution. I want to start by just reminding you of the outstanding support we received from our community for this bond and the projects that made up Propositions A and B. We recognize that our community is entrusting us with to utilize the $170 million in accordance with the propositions voted on. I want to reassure you that we will remain in tight alignment with these projects as promised and will be transparent throughout the process. We want you to feel confident that the funds are being managed properly, and we want to continue to build trust with our community. One way in which we will provide transparency is through our district website. We have already transitioned our website from election information to bond progress and updates. It will remain at the top of our website for the time being for easy access and will be updated as we move through our timeline. We will also give routine board updates to keep you abreast of progress and plans. Following the bond election, we've been busy with several behind-the-scenes actions that were necessary in order to ensure we were meeting legal requirements and being strategic in our approach. I won't read through this list this evening of all the actions we've taken, but I will share with you that I've met with key leaders over the past few months, and we've developed a plan to ensure we are addressing the details. We are setting guidelines and establishing practices that will ensure transparency, accountability, and alignment. We are also establishing an oversight committee consisting of citizens, business leaders, and parents. This committee will meet quarterly starting in March with our district, with the architects, and the bond manager as an added layer of monitoring of the use of the bond dollars entrusted to us by the citizens of Duncanville ISD. We have also started our process for selecting our architects and a bond manager, which I'm going to discuss next. We are currently in the process of selecting our bond architects and a bond manager. We will determine through the selection process how many architects we will partner with, which projects they will be assigned. A bond management firm will also be selected to work with all the architects, with the construction companies, and our vendors to ensure all projects are tracked, managed, communicated, and completed efficiently and effectively in accordance with the bond propositions. Our selection process started with setting the qualifications necessary for each opportunity. Because the architect and the bond manager are considered a professional service in accordance with Texas Education Code 44.031F, an RFQ process was utilized instead of an RFP. An RFQ is about selecting the most qualified, whereas an RFP is selected primarily based on bid price. The RFQ was posted in the local paper on December 20th and on the district website, and it was due back to us on January 10th. We had 13 architect firms apply and 5 bond management firms. We conducted an anonymous screening process, and based on scores, the top candidates, which include 5 architect firms and 2 bond management firms, have been invited to the interview phase of the selection process. Once a determination has been made by the selection committee, the finalist and the board will be notified. We will also post on the district website for community awareness. So now that you have an overview of the actions we've taken and that we are currently taking in progress, I want to share with you a tentative timeline of actions planned for February through April. This is not a complete list because we know that things will be added when we meet with the selected architects and the bond management firm. I do want to note, though, that next month we will be initiating the RFQs or RFPs as appropriate for most of the priority projects that are associated with the reimbursement resolution, which I will discuss next. As I shared last month, our priority projects are primarily in the area of safety and security. And as you are aware, you just heard earlier, we received $3.5 million in safety and security grants that will address some of the items that were listed in the bond, such as the fencing that you heard about this evening. However, these grants will not address the bond items of updating outdated fire alarm panels, our communication systems, and our security cameras. Therefore, these have been identified as priority projects for us. In addition to safety and security needs, replacing some of our school buses is necessary, as again was discussed previously. Therefore, we're going to go ahead and replace 15 of our buses as part of the reimbursement resolution, and we'll then, of course, gradually purchase the remaining projected number of buses as we sell our bonds. And our last priority project is the replacement of the roof at Byrd Middle School. Although we have several roof replacements in the bond, the condition of this one places it as a top priority. And while we are replacing the roof, we are also going to go ahead and replace 14 of the HVAC units and the energy management controls that are needed to be updated as well. It's just better to do it all at one time. And so this brings us to an overall estimate of slightly over $10 million, which also gives us some contingency funds to lean on during, based on the final cost analysis. So with that, this concludes my update on the bond, and I'll be back next month to notify you of the architect selected and our bond manager, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Halashka. I have a question regarding our purchasing procedures, just in general. I'm wondering, do we give preference to like local vendors, contractors, or, minority women? Do we do?
We do have that as a part of it was included as part of the RFQ process for minority women and children businesses. As far as locally, we do encourage the application, but in the end, we look at the same qualifications for each company to ensure that we're looking for those who meet the standard that we would expect here in the district. And so we really target those that are of highest quality. And if that's a local business, great. We would love that. But we focus on quality first.
Okay, yeah, so there is no local preference or anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay, but there is minority women participation goal?
Yes, that is included in the request for qualifications. We do ask that and look to see if that is something that they have as a part of their application.
Okay, so is that professional services?
It is considered professional services.
Okay, so in our architect and bond manager selections, that's something that we consider?
We do look at that, yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Within the contingency budget, would asbestos removal, should it be found in replacing HVAC or whatever, is asbestos put into the contingency part, or is that going to be a whole another ball of wax?
It could potentially be if asbestos was found. That would be a good example of why we have that contingency there, that we may need to rectify that, but it would depend on what was found and if that was necessary. Mm-hmm. But we do consider all of those factors. That's why we want to leave a little cushion.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Halashka.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Budget update, Mr. Garrison.
Good evening again, President McNeely, Board of Trustees, Ms. Fields. It's a pleasure to be able to give you an update on our budget process. What I've provided for you tonight is just a simple timeline of what to kind of look forward to over the coming months. As you know, we're about halfway through our current budget cycle as we're going through the year, and as you know, it's cyclical and it's the never-ending task. We're either in the middle of it, beginning it, or closing it out. And so right now, we're in the process of planning our budget for the adoption in June. We actually started this process after Thanksgiving break with SLT, is where we started the process and talked about priorities and timelines and kind of what to expect as the SLT group. Once we returned from Christmas break, I was able to present to the campus principals at the principals meeting about the budget process and kind of what to expect, how their budgets are determined. And then also scheduling was sent out. It's actually prepared to send out tomorrow to begin setting up one-on-one meetings with the campus principals and whoever their designees are to sit down and review their current budgets as well as to plan their budgets for the 24-25 year. Of course, tonight, talking a little bit with you guys about the timeline. DLT meeting is on Wednesday, and I'll have that same presentation with our departments, review the process, what they've seen in the past, kind of where they are currently, and then what to expect for the coming budget. Some of the other highlights on the budget process, especially pertaining to the board, is you'll get a monthly update on where we're at each meeting, and then we'll also be able to schedule any type of budget workshops as needed as we approach time to adopt the budget. As we close out January, that's when we'll actually get our certified values from the comptroller. As you know, that's a determining factor. We'll use that as well as our enrollment to solidify our revenue projections for our current year and tighten those up. Currently, I feel really good about that, but that's a number that we're anxiously awaiting. As we get into, we'll expect to have the budgets back. We'll work through the month of February doing one-on-ones with departments as well as administrators and giving them about a month's time to review those, not only one-on-one, but have time at their campuses before they return those budgets to my office to be put in place. Before middle of February, we'll actually build the computer files in Skyward, our software we use for our financial budget prep, and we'll begin building those files. Some of the other things that we'll do, I know we'll work with Ms. Brown very closely on our staffing and staffing ratios and things like that to be able to prepare, as you know, that the payroll is the largest portion of our budget. And then as we get into April, we'll get our preliminary estimated values for the next year. And so to kind of go back, that's our preliminary value for what the comptroller just certified that we're talking about at the end of January. So we'll get our preliminary values, and at the end of that month, we'll actually get our what they call our certified estimated values. They're still estimates, but they're certified at that point, and that's the other number that we'll use to determine our revenue projections along with our projected enrollment. And then at that time, we'll really begin to hone in. That's when I think we'll see more budget workshops. We'll have a lot more data to go off of. The budgets will have been returned, and we'll be able to spend a little more time together reviewing and revising the budget. Budget update in May, and then we'll have the legal publishing requirements that happen at the middle of June, beginning in middle of June. And then I would propose that we do our normal standard practice of adopting our budget, the normal regularly scheduled board meeting the 17th of June, and then we'll get our final values at the end of July. So that's a pretty brief rundown. I know that it's something all experienced board members, and this is a format that I know that Dr. Bigby had used, but it's also something I'm familiar with and have used in the past. So I was able to modify this with the dates that we have, and so I'm very comfortable with this, and something I want to make certain that I communicate effectively to you as well.
It looks like we're having our board meeting in March on the 25th. By information.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And then we have in addition to the board meetings, April, May, and June, we have budget work sessions.
Those are proposed at the pleasure of the board. And so, again, any of this is the timeline of developing the budget we'll be working through, but as far as the communication, we can do those. We can do as many or as few budget workshops as you would like at the pleasure of the board. But you can expect a budget update at each board meeting from now moving forward. And then any additional time that you feel like the board feels like we need to spend together, or you need more information or would like to hear more about, I'm more than happy to provide.
Yes, ma'am.
On the campuses, do the principals have the same procedure at every school? I mean, does the principal ask teachers for a wish list, or do the department heads submit wish lists, or do the principals just think, okay, this is what we want to do, this is the program, these are the projects, and they just do it? I mean, how much input do teachers have on a campus budget?
That is really more up to the principal. It's going to be more site-based. So what we do from a budgetary standpoint is they're all funded the same. They get a per dollar amount per student, and that's what we sit down and I look at with them. It's like, this is basically what you're going to look at. Here's what your enrollment is. This is what your dollar figure is per pupil, and here's your allocation. And then how they distribute that and utilize that on their campus, they have that discretion to do so.
So the ESSER situation will affect multiple campuses.
It's going to affect us in a pretty big fashion. We have 12 positions coded to ESSER, as
Yeah.
well as about another $6 million that we use to supplement payroll that are not tied directly to a position, but about $7 million in ESSER funding that we're using currently to subsidize our budget that we will not have moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Let's move on to the tax rolls analysis.
Introduction. Sorry. We do have representatives from Linebarger and Associates that helps with our tax roll analysis that'll that have a presentation prepared.
Good evening, Board President McNeely, Board of Trustees, and Interim Superintendent Fields. My name is Pamela Lee. I am your attorney, do your delinquent tax collection program. Along with me, I have Karen Bishop, who is your client liaison. Okay. All right, let's see if I can do this. All right. A little bit about Linebarger. Most of you are familiar with us, but we wanted to, in case you're not, we're a national law firm. We've been in business since 1976. We have a team of individuals who work on your behalf every day down near the medical district in downtown Dallas, near downtown Dallas, I should say. What we value, we certainly value our clients. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you and provide you a delinquent tax collection program. We value our people. We invest in our people so that we can give you the best community service and your citizens the best community service as we are attempting to provide the collection program. And we certainly value your community. As you know, we're always out here supporting your community, the different communities, and particularly in Duncanville, we're always out here supporting your many activities. What we offer, these are the services that we offer to you. We offer you, like I said, the delinquent tax collection program. We represent you in state and appellate court when necessary. We also have a team of individuals who give you legislative support. They are always there at the legislate in Austin, watching the legislators as they are in session, and will update you when necessary if there anything that you should be apprised of. We also give you advice and counsel on complex litigation issues, and we represent you in bankruptcy court. This is a typical timeline in delinquent tax collection process. As you go through it, you see the January 1 each year, your lien attaches to the property. In April is when businesses should be filing their renditions with the Dallas Central Appraisal District. And then July is usually when you get a certified tax roll. And it's also in that time as you just heard, you are also adopting your budgets and setting your tax rates. Bills are usually mailed out to your citizens in October, and they'll have from October 1 through January 31st to pay without any delinquent penalty and interest. After February 1 is when they become delinquent. In April 1 each year is when you turn over all of your delinquent business personal property accounts to us. And then on July 1st is when the remainder of your delinquent accounts are turned over to us by the Dallas County Tax Assessor Collector. So once we get your turnover, we analyze your roll. We identify the properties that are protected and should not be included in your delinquent tax collection program. And then we begin to execute the program, which starts with mailing to your constituents, reminding them that they may have forgotten this year that those taxes are due and that they're now delinquent and turned over to us. Of course, we provide any address research and skip tracing that we need. And of course, if you can't locate the property owner, you're not going to be able to collect the delinquent taxes. We also include a call campaign, so we're also calling your property owners, as well as taking in the telephone calls because of they have received one of our letters. We also spend time negotiating payment arrangements throughout the entire collection process. And then at this time, if their taxes remain delinquent, then they are eligible to be put into lawsuits, and that's when your litigation process will begin. If they are still delinquent after the lawsuit has been filed, then they can be sold on the courthouse steps the first Tuesday of each month. Of course, that's no longer a physical sale, that's now an online process. And then if there are no bidders and the property is struck off to a taxing entity, then they'll go through a resale process. Now I'm going to turn over to Karen to talk about your current year turnover.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Karen Bishop, as Pam just stated. This slide talks about the 2022 turnover, which we received on April 1st for business personal property delinquent taxes, and then again on July 1st, we received all the real estate, real property, and any additional business personal property taxes that remain delinquent on July 1st. So you'll see this is a timeline that began on the end of June, so July 1 through June of 2023. We get the turnover, and you'll see that it shows that from 21 to 22, there was a 53.42% increase in the delinquent turnover. We received 1,112 delinquent files. As you can see from the pie chart, 87.7%, almost 88% of your delinquent taxes belong in the real property category, with about 12% in business personal property and just about 1% or less for mobile homes. This slide shows the tax roll by size of account. So in these two charts, you will see that in the over $5,000 category, you have about 64% or just over $4 million in delinquent taxes. This also includes all years that were delinquent, current year 2022 and all the years prior to that still remain delinquent. So what I do in my position is that I look at these files and I assess them and determine which ones that I need to actively go out and make site visits on. So on the next slide, it shows you the accounts that are collectible, what we consider to be collectible accounts. You have 64.5% of your delinquent accounts that are considered collectible. And by collectible, as you'll see in the chart to the left, it shows you three categories. You have collectibles where we're mailing letters, doing research, obtaining judgments, filing lawsuits. If they're represented by an attorney, then those are handled a little bit differently. And then we have accounts that are being handled through our bankruptcy department. If the account is in bankruptcy, that stops the litigation process, and then our bankruptcy department takes over to file claims as necessary on those particular properties. And then we also do payment arrangements. Now, 30%, almost 31% of your files are considered on hold, and it shows you the reasons why those files are on hold. There are either 65 and over accounts, or they have tax deferrals, veterans deferrals. They have some type of exemption that's keeping us from moving forward with the litigation process. And then just about 4.6% of your files are what we consider uncollectible. And that's because the account may be past the statute of limitations. Excuse me, my ulcer's dry. For business personal property, the statute of limitations is 4 years, and for real property, it's 20 years. So if those things are in place, then we are not able to move forward with litigation. And then any account that's $15 or less, we don't do a lot of collections on those. We just hope that it gets paid the next time they get a tax bill. So this slide tells about our programs and activities results from July 2022 to June 23. We filed 33 lawsuits. We had 15 lawsuits that were disposed of either by payment or judgments of some sort. And then we had 24 accounts that were in bankruptcy. And then Myself personally went out and did 45 site visits on properties that I deemed were needing a visit for me to go and knock on a door or not go into a business and hand deliver them a tax statement. Just as another friendly reminder, because they've gotten several at this point. And then we had 2 properties during that time frame that were posted for sheriff's sale and mailed out over 2,700 letters of delinquency to taxpayers. So all these efforts collected just over $1 million for the Duncanville ISD, and none of this cost the school district any money because all of our attorney's fees are paid when the taxpayer pays their tax bill. So there's not any additional cost or add-on that the school district is paying for our services. This slide talks about our payment options. We have regular payment plans where the taxpayer can be given 90 days up to 12 months to pay their tax bill. And then they have to have a homestead agreement in place on the account that is granted by the appraisal district in order to get up to 36 months to pay their delinquent taxes. We also offer these same payment agreements once we've obtained a judgment and that judgment becomes final. The taxpayer still has an opportunity to get on a payment plan before we then proceed with asking permission from our clients, the cities and schools, to take that property to a sheriff's sale. And then this shows the exemptions that the appraisal district offers to taxpayers that they have to contact the appraisal district and request, which is the over 65, disabled, veterans, as you can see there in that slide. Finally, this slide talks about a program that we instituted during COVID, where there was monies given to the state of Texas, and we sent out flyers with that information in it. When I did home visits, I would take the copy of the flyer with the information to show the taxpayers how they can apply to get money to pay their delinquent tax bills. And when they first instituted this program and these funds, it was only for during the COVID years. But once they still had money left over, several taxpayers were able to get money even after 2020 until the funds ran out. So that was a very successful program. And this is our community participation page showing some of the things that we have done in the city of Duncanville to support the city and school district. And finally, you'll see here myself, Pam, and our managing partner, Bridget Moreno-Lopez, and our operations manager, Ms. Gonzalez. These are your contacts. Mainly, you might start with me, and if it's something I can't answer, then I'm gonna go to Pam, and then we'll escalate from there as needed. And that concludes our presentation. Are there any other questions?
Any questions? Jackie?
Thank you. Have a good night.
Oh, I just
Oh.
have a comment.
Oh, you had a question? I'm sorry.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Lee and Mrs. Bishop, on your presentation. And I just like to say thank you for your support of, various initiatives that we have here, like our coat drive and everything else. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for being representative of your company at just last Thursday night at our
Yes.
Celebrate
We had a good
Duncanville.
time.
So we noticed, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night.
See, we have no communication with citizens. Let's go home.